Bruchim Habayim, welcome everybody to the MEGILLAH event here in Miami 5784. I'm currently assisting as director for Shul.com. Shul.com is an organization that helps rabbis coming down to Miami and to Deal, New Jersey, where we set up for them Torah classes, events, recording, all the infrastructure from beginning to end. It's a pleasure to be able to host Rabbi Glatstein tonight. He's a real, true Talmid Hacham. Tens of thousands of classes. It's the real meat and potatoes. You know, you hear sometimes speakers of motivation and inspiration, and that's all good. But there's also real Torah, and this is what we're here for tonight. So without further ado, Rabbi Daniel Glatstein.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the warm introduction. I've already spoken in Miami for Shul.com, and I'm very pleased to see its growth over a very short amount of time. And Kain Yirbu L'Hagdot Har L'Hadira. Welcome, friends, to the first MEGILLAH convention. So you say, what is a convention? What are you supposed to convene about? Torah, Shir. Okay, fasten your seatbelts. Whatever you thought about Purim, whatever ideas, whatever perspectives you had about Purim, I'm going to ask you to forget about. I'm going to ask you to throw out the window, because what we're going to learn this evening is a revolutionary and accurate report about what really happened. Let's begin with the following halacha that we're all familiar with. The Gemara Masechta Megillah says on Daf Gimel, the Gemara says, what do you do when you have a dilemma, when you have two important mitzvahs that coincide and you can only do one of them? What if it's either you could do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, you could be makriv a carbon tamid shel shachar, to carbon tamid shel ben arbaim, or you could go to the shul to read the Megillah. What takes precedence? Kriyas HaMegillah or avodah? Says the Gemara, we darshan from the pasuk mishpacha u'mishpacha that the families of Kohanim and Leviim are mevatel their avodah and they come to hear Mikra Megillah. In other words, Mikra Megillah trumps the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. And then the Gemara continues. The Gemara says, Mikan samchu beis Rebbe, that the house of Rebbe relied on this, that if there was a public shir, mevatlin Talmud Torah uban l'shmaya Mikra Megillah, we interrupt learning and we come to hear the reading of the Megillah. So if you have two values, avodah Mikra Megillah, ding ding ding, Mikra Megillah wins. You have two values. You have Talmud Torah or Mikra Megillah, ding ding ding, Mikra Megillah wins. Mikra Megillah trumps avodah, it trumps Talmud Torah. Now, if I were to ask you, why? Why does Mikra Megillah trump avodah? Why does it trump Talmud Torah? You would say, look, there's no question, avodah is doraisa, avodah is more important. Torah is doraisa, it's more important. But what could you do? Mikra Megillah is what is called a mitzvah iveres. It's a passing mitzvah. If you don't read it now, then you'll never be able to mekayim the mitzvah. So even though avodah maybe is more important, and learning is more important, however, Mikra Megillah is fulfilled, because if not now, then when? We're going to read it on the 20th of Adar? There's no alternative. It's either now or never. Nevertheless, if you look in the Baal HaTurim seems to indicate that we don't read the Megillah because it's a passing mitzvah, and if we don't do it now, we'll never have the opportunity. The Baal HaTurim is mashma that Mikra Megillah is greater than the avodah, is greater than Talmud Torah. The Baal HaTurim points out that only 3 times in the whole Tanakh do we have the following word, v'nishma. 3 times in Tanakh we have the word v'nishma. What are they? Number 1, in Parshas Tetzaveh, v'nishma koiloi b'voy al HaKodesh. It's talking about the Kohen Gadol. He's walking into the Mikdash. He has the bells on the bottom of the Me'il, and it says, V'nishma koiloi b'voye el HaKodesh. The voice, the sound will be heard when he enters the Kodesh. And of course we have the word Naaseh V'nishma. By Talmud Torah, we will do and we will listen. And the third time we have the word V'nishma is in Megillas Esther. V'nishma piskam hamelech b'chol malchusai. V'nishma piskam hamelech. The sound of the edict of the king will be heard, referring to Mikra Megillah. So we have three v'nishmas. One by avoida, v'nishma koiloi v'voyoi el hakodesh. One by Talmud Torah, naasa v'nishma. And we have Mikra Megillah, v'nishma piskam hamelech. Says the Baal HaTurim, if you don't know what to do, v'nishma koiloi v'voyoi el hakodesh, or v'nishma piskam hamelech, you're going to read the Megillah, v'nishma piskam hamelech b'chol malchusai ki rabohi. Mikra Megillah is greater. And if you don't know what to do, Talmud Torah, Nasa v'nishma, or Kriyas HaMegillah, what do you do? Kriyas HaMegillah, v'nishma piskam hamelech b'chol malchusai ki rabohi. Mikra Megillah is greater. Furthermore, the Baal HaTurim says, ki rabohi. Rabbah is the one who says in the Gemara that Mikra Megillah is greater than Avodah and Talmud Torah. Ki Rabbahi, Rabbah's the man. So this is an astounding comment to the Baal HaTurim. The Baal HaTurim seems to say that Mikra Megillah, reading the Megillah, is greater than doing the Avodah, is greater than Talmud Torah. How can you say such a thing? That Mikra Megillah is greater? Mikra Megillah is either D'Rabbanan or Midivrei Nevi'im. How could you say it's greater than Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, Talmud Torah? Friends, I want to share a chiddush with you that is not so well known, and it appears in no less than 7 svarim of one of my all-time favorite gedolim. Now, this is Machayin Magid Rakia convention. If you don't know the answer to this, then you need to go to a different convention. Okay? Who's my favorite? Who's my favorite gadol we saw off the air? What? The Chida, thank you very much. You could stay. The Chida. In no less than 7 svarim of the Chida reveals the following bombshell. That even though the Megillah says that Achashverosh ruled, he ruled 127 Medinos, and they told you in kindergarten Achashverosh ruled over the whole world, and you read the Gemara in Megillah that he was Malach B'Kippah, he ruled over the globe. Says the Chida, it's not true. Achashverosh never ruled over Spain. He didn't rule over Sfarad. He didn't rule over Africa. Who knows where Africa is? It's very close to Africa. It is Africa, actually. Egypt, he didn't rule over Egypt. Says the Chida, Achashverosh didn't rule over Sfardim. And therefore Haman never decreed to annihilate Sfardim, only Ashkenazim. He had no problem with Sfardim, because Achashverosh didn't rule over them. So now the question then is, if Achashverosh didn't rule over the Sfardim, and Haman didn't decree over the Sfardim, why do Sfardim have to keep Purim? Maybe Sfardim should be exempt from Purim. Maybe Purim should be a Yom Tov for Ashkenazim. And Sfardim, we'll give them kitnias on Pesach. They could have rice. They could eat rice on Pesach. Hey, they could eat rice the whole year. Why would anybody ever want to eat rice? You like rice? I don't know. Yeah, you like rice. Okay. But I don't. So I'm going to give Sfardim rice, and then we'll give them, they could say slichos the whole elul, and they could have rice after they slichos also. But the Chida in the Leiv David reveals that Achashverosh did not rule over Sfarad and Africa. In fact, in the Chida Sefer Maris Ha'ayin on Avodah Zarah, the Chida says that Haman came to Achashverosh, and he says, Achashverosh, what are you worried about if you annihilate the Jews? Here's the thing. You're afraid that it's going to look like you have patches in your kingdom? Just eradicate all the Jews all over the world, and nobody will ever know they existed. And Esther tells Achashverosh, yeah, they will, because there's still Jews in Spain, and in Africa, and in Egypt, and you can't pull off the stunt because there will still be Jews who survive. And by the way, this is not only the Chiddush of the Chida. The Ben Yehoyada writes in Masechta Megillah that Achashverosh only ruled over Asia. And Asia was the majority of the civilized world at the time, was between the Euphrates and the Tigris River. The majority of the civilization was in Asia, but Achashverosh, says the Ben Yehoyada, did not reach Europe. Achashverosh did not rule over Africa. Gina, where's Gina? Italy? Yeah? And let's see if you know this one. V'kol shekain shelo higia be'eretz Amerikan. Certainly, where's Amerikan? Anybody know? Amerikan is Borough Park. Okay? He did not rule over America. Why? Shelo nigla sadayin. It wasn't discovered yet. Therefore, when the Gemara says Achashverosh ruled over the Kippah, it means he ruled over the civilized world that was known about. Because if you look in the Medrash says there are 252 Medinos in the world. So Achashverosh ruled over 127, majority, Roiv. And therefore, the Chidah brings the very interesting question that why do Sfardim have to keep Purim? Their lives were never in danger. So far, we've quoted two Sfarim of the Chidah, the Lev David. After the Holocaust, my grandfather published the first two Sfarim for the survivors, one of them being the Lev David of the Chidah. Sefer number 3, I'm going to quote from the Chidah, Dvarim Achadim. Here the Chidah says that this is not my Chidush. I already read an earlier Kadmonim from the Maharimt in the Drashos. There are 252 communities in the world, regions in the world. Achashverosh only ruled over 127. So the question then is, why do Sfardim have to observe Purim? To which the Chidah says a very interesting answer. He says the Gemara in Horayos discusses if a miracle occurs to some of the Shvatim, does the entirety of the Jewish people have to say Hallel? And the Gemara in Horayos says, indeed, if the majority of the Shvatim were in danger and then they're saved, then all of Klal Yisrael has to sing Shira. So says the Chidah, the truth is, the Sfardim were always saved. They were not in danger. So why do Sfardim have to keep Purim? Because since the majority of the Jewish people were in danger, the entirety of the Jewish people has to keep Purim. The concept is Holchin Achar Haroiv. Furthermore, says the Chidah, and what would have been if Achashverosh would have eradicated Ashkenazic Jews? Then the Goyim would have got wind, maybe we should try this with the Sfardim, and ultimately their lives would have been in danger, so they also have to keep Purim. Furthermore, the Chidah says that in the aftermath of the Purim story, all of Klal Yisrael were Makabel Torah Ba'ahava, so whether their lives were in danger or not, Hadar Kiblua Bimei Achashverosh is going on Ashkenazim and Sfardim. Even the Sfardim willingly accepted the Torah out of love, and therefore Sfardim also are obligated in the Yom Tif of Purim. This is what the Chidah says in the Sefer Dvarim Achadim. But this is not ultimately the answer that the Chidah sticks with. Okay, we're up to the fourth Sefer where the Chidah discusses the subject, Nachal Eshkol. Actually, I had prepared this year, but I never realized this until the plane. Now, Chidushim come on the plane that you will not access anywhere else. You ever notice that? It's a very well-known phenomenon. The best Chidushim come on the plane. And there are different explanations for this. Some people may think it's a mystical phenomenon, that because you're very high up in the Shamayim and you're closer to the Kisei HaKavod, so the Wi-Fi from heaven is much, much stronger. That's not the real reason. The real reason is because the phone doesn't work on the plane, you could actually learn. And that's why the Chidushim come on the plane. Now, and for some reason, my phone never works. Everyone else's phone, they connect right away. My phone, no, it's Ki'ilu, I don't have one. It's a very big bracha. I never realized this question. La Yehudim, Hayisayra, V'simcha, V'sasa. What do you mean, La Yehudim, Hayisa, Ayra? In the past, Hayisa, in the past. It should say, currently, present tense. Why La Yehudim, Hayata? Why past tense? Says the Chida, this is an illustration of the principle that HaKadosh Baruch Hu never brings difficulty to Klal Yisrael or to any individual unless first he's boyer refuah. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu makeh liYisrael elam kein boyer refuah tchila. So Lahudim Haisa already before Haman came along, the Oira, V'simcha, V'sasam Ikar had been created before Haman ever came to the scene. But says the Chida, what does it mean? Oira, Simcha, Sasain, Vikar. Why do we need all these Lashonos? So he says very simply. He says there are 4 different areas in the world. Oira, in Shushan, they saw great light. Simcha, outside of Shushan. Sasain, in Spain and Africa, for Sfardim. Vikar, Sfardim who live in the outlying areas. So in other words, it's very interesting that not all Jews were equally in danger. In fact, the Gemara discusses that in some communities they observed Purim in year 1, and in other communities they were not masaking Purim until year 2. And the Chida says it could be that perhaps in year 1, Sfardim did not have Purim, because maybe they didn't realize they were in danger or they weren't being threatened, and it did not come until year 2. But then the Chida drops the big bombshell of why in fact do Sfardim observe Purim if their lives were never in danger. And we're now going to discover the secret ingredient of Purim, maybe perhaps that is not so well known, but without understanding this, you could miss the main principle of Purim. The Chida wrote many commentaries on the Haggadah. He wrote at least 5 Perushim on the Haggadah. One of them is called Batei HaNafesh. And he asked a very similar question. Okay, we're going to take a little poll. Okay, how many Kohanim do we have in the Machon Magid Rakia convention? Right, I forgot, we didn't let any Kohanim into the convention this year, right? How many Leviim do we have? You're not sure? You're sure? You're positive? You don't know what's coming next, so you don't want to answer. Okay. Do Leviim have to keep Pesach?
Yes.
Yeah. So the question is, if the reason we observe Pesach is because Rebbeinu Shem rescued us from Avdos, Leviim didn't have to work in Mitzrayim. Why do Leviim have to observe Pesach? So the Chida says, that's exactly like my question, why do Sfardim have to keep Purim? Any Sfardim who are Leviim here? No, okay. That would be danger. Then you know Purim, no Pesach. You have a few months off. So the Chida says a great revelation. We make a bracha on Purim and Chanukah. Sha'asa nisim la'avayseinu. Bayomim ahim. Hashem made a miracle in those days. Bazman hazeh. In this time. What does that mean? Bayomim ahim. Bazman hazeh. So the Chida brings a great revelation of the Arizal. That every Yom Tif, the Jewish calendar is a living calendar. What does that mean it's a living calendar? That means when we have a Yom Tif, it's not that, okay, here we are, we're 3,000 years later, and we're commemorating what happened a long, long time ago in ancient history. It has no relevance to us, but we remember what happened to our great-great-grandparents. No. The Jewish calendar is a living calendar. When that date on the calendar comes, the same hashpah, the same influence of Kedusha, the light that emanated from Shamayim at that time on Yud Daled Adar to bring Yeshua v'Nachamos to Klal Yisrael, that very light reenacts itself, reappears, reawakens in real time the exact same way as it did in the year that the miracle occurred. In other words, we're not commemorating an ancient miracle, but the hashpah of Kedusha that happened back in the day by Yomim Ahim is Bazman Hazeh. It's reawakening this year at this very time. And therefore, says the Arizal, Sfardim were not in danger and they were not threatened but we don't celebrate Purim because our lives were saved. The celebration of Purim is we're celebrating a gift from Shemayim. What was that gift? Great influence of Kedusha came down on that day 3,000 years ago, and it reoccurs and reappears and reawakens every single year at this time of the year. And therefore, whether you're Sephardi, Ashkenazi, Egyptian, Moroccan, Yemenite, you eat rice, you don't eat rice, you like rice, you're allergic to rice, whatever your relationship with rice is, you have to observe Purim. Because there's a certain influence of light that comes down. So you'll say, okay, was there something distinct or unique about the light of Yud Aleph Adar more than any other time of the year? And in fact, we're going to learn something out of this world. Please take a look at number 12 on your sheets. Lines of the Chassam Sofer. Rabbi Yaakov Lev is going to send this out to a few hundred people immediately. Okay? This is perhaps the most astounding comment in all the writings of the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer says, She'or Kadosh HaKolol b'Megillah, the great holy light that's included in the Megillah, Hu Mamish Yoiser Gadol v'Nichbad Mitorasenu HaKadosh ba'atzma. It's greater and more honorable than the Torah itself. You ever hear anything like that? The light in Megillah Esther is greater than the light in the Torah itself. El Mole Amroi, if the Chassam Sofer did not say this, you couldn't say such a thing. You know, it would be, you would think it's EF Shel Amroi. Now, I always thought that the Lashon of Chassam Sofer was, it's Kemat Yoiser Gadol. No, he doesn't say that. He says the light of Megillas Esther is Mamish Yoiser Gadol v'Nichmad. It is greater. How can you say that? What does it mean? The Arizal tells us that La'asad Lavai, all the books of the Chumash will become all the books of Tanakh will become batal, except for Megillas Esther. Ready for the lashon of the Arizal? V'hatamhu, look at number 13 in the Shar Kavanos. La'olam lo'haya nes gadol kazeh. There was never such a great miracle. Lo'i b'shabbasos v'lo'i b'yamim tovim lehiskayim ha'arazu. There was never such a light in this world like the light of Purim. In other words, the Rebbeinu Shalom has spiritual influences. The greatest hashpah the Rebbeinu Shalom ever brought to the world was Purim. The greatest influence the Rebbeinu Shalom ever brought to the world was Purim. And Arizal brings in the Pri Eitz Chaim, Hashem Yisbarach roitza lahitav imanu. Hashem wanted to bestow goodness on us. Ulahayar lanu b'chol zman uzman, and to illuminate for us in all times. Uv'chol shana v'shana. V'shet tamid b'yamim ha'ela yisgala oisai ha'ara shel Mordechai afilu achar heyoisan v'tishar kayemes tamid. Says Ari, listen to this. Ha'ara hazois loy hoisa loy b'shabos v'loy b'yomtiv ela b'purim b'lvad. The light of Purim, there's nothing ever comparable to it. Not Shabbos, not Pesach, not Shavuos, not Chanukah. So how do we understand this? It seems like, if I were to ask you, the Rebbeinu Shalom has given a lot of gifts to our people. He gave us the Torah. He's given us Shabbos. He's given us Yom Tov, Pesach, Shavuos. What was the most sublime, elevated, spiritual gift the Rebbeinu Shalom ever bestowed to Klal Yisrael? The Arizal says the greatest or ever to come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Jewish people is Purim, is Megillas Esther. I mean, would you have thought that? How do we understand that? Why would the Megillah be the greatest light to ever come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How could something be more sublime than the Torah itself? If I were to ask you, is there any document holier than the Torah? Before you came in here, you'd say, of course not. How could such a thing be? So I want to share with you a very simple medrash. Take a look at number 15. Rabbi Chanina bar Yitzchak Amar. Rabbi Chanina bar Yitzchak says, Shloisha noivloisein. There are three things in this world that are a noivel. Anybody know what's a noivel? A noivel means a semblance of, a shemetz of. There are three things in this world that are a little flavor of the real thing. You know what they are? Noiveles misa shena. A semblance of death is sleep. Sleep is a semblance of death. So people say it must not be too bad. But the Medrash says a semblance of death is sleep. Noiveles nevuah, a semblance of prophecy. Chaloim is a dream. Noiveles ha'olam haba, Shabbos. A semblance of the world to come is Shabbos. We're all familiar with that. Shabbos is the 60th of olam haba. A dream is the 60th of prophecy. Sleep is the 60th of death. But the Medrash continues. Rabbi Abin Moisef Oid Tartan. A semblance of the light of above is the sun. And here's the clincher. Noiveles chachma shalmala Torah. A semblance of the wisdom on high is the Torah. See, we're accustomed to thinking the Torah is the most sublime form of wisdom because somehow the Rebbeinu Shalom and the Torah are one. Nevertheless, the Torah is only a way with which the Rebbeinu Shalom has allowed us to recognize His wisdom. Of course, the Rebbeinu Shalom is an entity unto Himself. The Rebbeinu Shalom is a Metzias b'fnei atzmai. He gave us the Torah so that we could have some recognition of His Chachma. But that means that Lemala mi Torasai is Chachmasai. That above and beyond the Torah is the wisdom of Hashem Himself. Okay, you got that concept? That there's the Torah, Hashem is Noisein HaTorah. He gave the Torah to Klal Yisrael, but there's something above and beyond the Torah. What's the Torah above and beyond? Chachma Shalmala. It's a Medrash, not me. I couldn't say such a thing. The Medrash says, a noivel of Chachma Shalmala is Torah. So the question is, did Hashem ever give Klal Yisrael something that's not Torah, that's from Chachma Shalmala? So last week, we had the zechus to visit the city of the Chida, Livorno. You ever hear of Livorno? It's in Italy. And do you know who was buried in Italy? The Chida. Now, we tried to arrange the trip. Anybody know what's the Chida's yard site? Yod Aleph Adar is the Chida's yard site. And I wanted to go to the Chida's kever. Now, where's the Chida buried? He's buried in Har Menuchos, right? He's buried in Har Menuchos. But he wasn't originally buried in Har Menuchos. Originally, he was buried in Livorno. And they have the original matzeva of the Chida in Livorno. So I wanted to go to the Chida's original matzeva on his yard site on Yud Aleph Adar. That would be spectacular, to be at the original spot where the Chida was buried, where his original matzeva is on the... We couldn't work it out. The logistics didn't allow it. We went one day later. But you can be off by one. It still counts. I went home Shabbos, and I'm reading about the Chida, and I saw the Chida was nifter on Yud Aleph Adar, on Shabbos Parsha Zachar. So he was buried on Yud Beis. So we actually were at the Makom Kavura of the Chida, the Matzeva of the Chida, exactly 218 years to the day from the day that he was buried in Livorno. Next to the Chida are many, many Gedolim. You have the Yad Malachi, Rab Malachi Kohen. You have Rabbi Yosef Ergaz. You have a cousin of the Beis Yosef from the generation of the Beis Yosef. You have the Shar HaMelech. You have Rabbi Yehuda Saraf, the Rebbe of the Pri Chadash. And right there in Livorno, on that all-star line, you have Reb Chaim Kohen. Reb Chaim Kohen is the author of Tur Barakes, Talmud Muvak of Reb Chaim Vital. And in the great Sefer, Shvilei Pinchas on Purim, I remember seeing this many years ago, he brings a Chidush Noira Va'oyam from Reb Chaim Kohen, the Talmud of Reb Chaim Vital, to explain this medrash. If Torah is only a noivel of Chachma Elyoina, did the Rebbeinu Shalom ever in the history of the world give Klal Yisrael a little flavor of what the Chachma Elyoina is? Yeah, one time. Megillas Esther. Megillas Esther is, in a way, lemala min haTorah. It's the raw divine wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, I'm sure you're familiar. There's a famous code. My father said it over to many audiences, where the exact date of the hanging of the 10 Nazis in the Nuremberg trial is written openly. The date is written openly. You have the small tuf, the small shin, you have the small zayin, 1947, and you have the big vav, the sixth time that appears. Do you have any other similar type of raw, open, divine information where the Torah gives black and white, where thousands of years before, the Torah gives you a date of a future event? People have told me that in their mind, that is the most raw, open proof for the divine origin of the Torah. You don't have anything like that in the Chumash, where the Chumash gives dates of future events, black and white. The answer is Megillas Esther is different. Megillas Esther is not Torah. Megillas Esther is Lamala. It's from the Chachma HaElyoina. It's the raw. You see, we need the Torah, because how could a human being cannot have any hasaga of Chachma Elokis. So Rebbeinu Shalom said, okay, let me couch it for you. Let me wrap it for you. Let me bring it down into human terms. So you can have Sharsha, Nagach, Esapara. You have, the Torah talks about things that happened in the life of Basar V'Dam. But that's not Chachma Elyoina. It's the Torah that the Rebbeinu Shalom clothed and cloaked for us, so that we can understand Chachma Elyoina. But did he ever give us Chachma Elyoina? Megillas Esther. Says Reb Chaim Kohen, that's why Mevatlin Talmud Torah Ubain L'Shmaya Mikra Megillah, because Mikra Megillah is greater than Talmud Torah. That's why this explains the Baal HaTurim. If you don't know what to do you do the Avodah or do you do Mikra Megillah? Kirabahi! Mikra Megillah is greater! If you don't know what to do, Talmud Torah or Mikra Megillah? Kirabahi! Mikra Megillah is greater. In fact, the Bnei Yissaschar writes in many places, the reason why, you see, Sfardim got this right. What do you call rabbis? Chacham. Because the shoresh of Nishmasam comes from the Chachma HaElyoina, the Bnei Yissaschar says. There's no such thing as a rabbi. It's not a Jewish term. In the Chumash, there's only one Rav, Esav. There are no other Rabbanim. There's only one Rav. For Rav Ya'avoid Tza'ir. The Abarbanel came to Italy. He said, he came here, he saw a new kind of person, rabbis. He says, it's a mimic of a professor or a doctor, but it's not there's only Chachamim. Where is the root of your soul? The root of the soul is Chachma HaElyoina. La Yehudim Haisa Oira, the oir of Megillas Esther is a light of which the world had never seen before and never will see again. The light of Purim is a light that the world never saw. Says the Chidah, the reason why Sfardim observe Purim, it's not because their lives were in danger. It's because Purim is not a celebration of the fact that the Rebbeinu Shalom saved us. It was a celebration of the greatest gift the Rebbeinu Shalom ever gave to Klal Yisrael. A spiritual light and influence, the likes of which the world never saw. Greater than the giving of the Torah. So I want to share with you a very interesting thought. According to the Chidah, Sfardim's lives were never endangered in the times of Purim. There's a very eerie parallel then, that there was another Gezerah in our century, someone, Mizera Amalek, someone who has his roots in Haman. Of course, we know Hitler. And also the Imrei Emes said that primarily, that was a Gezerah on the Ashkenazim and not on the Sfardim. And the Imrei Emes gave a reason even. Imrei Emes wrote that the Sfardim who show proper kavod l'tefillah, Hitler was not able, for the most part, to make a Gezerah upon them. And I'm not commenting regarding anyone deserving or not deserving. Let's just observe one simple fact. That the two Gezeros of Lahashmid, Laroig, Uliabed in our history, in the times of Haman and the times of Hitler, were both predominantly on Kehilais Ashkenaz and not on the Sfardim. But I want to ask you another question. You know, in the Megillah we read, La'ihudim haisa oira, v'simcha v'sasain vikar. That after the miracle of Purim, we had bris milah. What do you mean we had bris milah? Haman wasn't trying to be mavata bris milah. Was Haman trying to eradicate bris milah? What do you mean we had bris milah? We always had bris milah. We still had it. We still have it. We always had it. Why are we celebrating? Why is Purim a celebration of bris milah? You know, it's interesting. Hitler said that the Jewish people hurled on society two imperfections. One is a physical pagam, a physical imperfection, bris milah. Bris milah is a mum of the guf, Hitler said. And the conscience is a mum of the personality. And Hitler said, we're going to free man of the shackles of the Jew, and man will revert back to being a barbarian without a bris milah and without conscience. Now we understand why Hitler wanted to eradicate and completely destroy the body of the Jew. You know, it's one of the only times in our history where Hitler wanted to completely remove any vestige, not just of the memory of the Jew, but of the body of the Jew. Why did Hitler want to destroy the body of the Jew? Because the body of the Jew with the bris milah represented to the world a certain discipline. So Hitler wanted to eradicate bris milah. You know, the Vilna Gaon has the same diuk regarding Haman. Haman's gezerah was lahashmid, laharoig, uliabed. The Vilna Gaon says, if you take a look at number 23, a person has four dimensions: nefesh, ruach, neshama, guf. The nefesh and the guf go together. That's the body. The neshama is to do mitzvahs. Haman wanted to destroy everything. Lahashmid, mitzvahs, keneged the neshama. Laharoig, keneged the ruach. La'abid, Haman said it's not enough that Jews can't do mitzvahs. He wanted to destroy the guf. Why did Haman want to destroy the guf? I think because Haman, like Hitler, understood that even the guf of the Jew represented discipline to the world. The bris milah of the Jew represented discipline to the world. So it wasn't enough for Haman to destroy Torah mitzvahs. It wasn't enough for him to kill us. He wanted to be ma'abed the gufei Yisrael. So it's a very eerie parallel that almost in every dimension that what Haman wanted to do to Klal Yisrael. He wanted to stop Torah mitzvahs. He wanted to destroy the guf of Klal Yisrael. He wanted to destroy bris milah, and that's why after Purim we say vikar. It's a celebration of bris milah, because Rebbe Hashem didn't just rescue our lives. but he preserved Kedushas Guf Yisrael. And both of these instances, and both of these Rishayim, their Gezerah was only on Kehilas Ashkenaz and not Kehilas Sfarad. It's mind-boggling to observe this parallel. That in the both decrees against the Jewish people, the two most severe Gezeros on Klal Yisrael, Haman and Hitler both, for the most part, absolved Kehilas Sfarad. So the Chidah is bothered. So why do they have to celebrate Purim? And the Chidah says, in his opinion, there's only one answer. And again, this is something the Chidah speaks about in 7 of his Sfarim. It's a celebration of the greatest hashpah of Kedusha the Rebbeinu Shalom ever gave Klal Yisrael. I want to end off by reading a passage from the Lev David in number 11. If you take a look on your sheet, number 11, in the second column. He says that this great light that the Rebbeinu Shalom brought on Purim, first take a look in number 11 in the second paragraph. V'yitachen shezeh nichlal b'nusach shetiknu chazal, asher asa nisim la'avoseinu b'yamim hahem b'zman hazeh. B'yamim hahem, in those days, Higdil Hashem la'ashbiya, shefa Yeshua v'rachamim. Hashem magnanimously influenced us with salvation and mercy. V'israchish l'hu nisa. V'gam bizman hazeh mischadesh hashvas harachamim. And in this time, also, there's a great influence of rachamim. But please take a look in the final paragraph in number 11, where the Chidah makes a very bold prediction. Says Reb Chaim Yosef David Azulai, the light of Purim is such a powerful light. Uve'enai hadavar pashut. In my eyes, it's obvious. Shem kol Yisrael hayoim hazeh. That if all of Israel on this day, Asher zera Amalek latevach Yuval, the day that we slaughter Amalek, v'nafal Haman hara hazeh, if all of Klal Yisrael, hayunoyagim, the Chidah says on the third line, b'seder kedusha, if Klal Yisrael would accord themselves in holiness, the hasimcha, what day in the calendar is, so to speak, the most misdirected, misguided day on the calendar? The most abused day in the calendar is Purim. People drink excessively until, they're wasted. You have Bachrim, they spend the whole day collecting money. It's great. But when they can do Purim? When do they celebrate Purim? What happened to Purim? Says the Chidah, if on this day the Simcha would be Mikudeshes, V'yeser Hayoim Oiskim B'Torah, and the rest of the day, besides Megillah and besides the mitzvahs Hayoim, one would be involved in Torah, Kol Echad K'fi Shiura, each person according to their madrega. Al Kain B'Schar Hayinu Negalim Geulas Oilam, we would be redeemed eternally. V'Yimcha Zechar Amalek, we would wipe out Amalek, because on the day that Amalek began to fall, Im Yisrael Hayinu Mis'amtzim B'Torah Mitzvahs, Amalek would be destroyed completely. Uva Letzion Goyal Umagam Asher Roiv Yisrael Marbim Tzedakah Yom Hazeh. Especially the majority of Klal Yisrael, they do so much tzedakah, Imamele Torah, and how many hundreds are dedicated to mitzvahs. All of this tzedakah and all of this kedusha and all of this Torah. By the way, Chassam Sofer writes, he has a tradition from his Rebbe, Remendel Lilig, that anyone who is oisek b'Torah between Megillah Shalayla and Megillah Shalyom, muftach loy shahu ben olam haba. Says the Chidah, u'koyach avodaseinu hayom ein safek shahoisa mapalas amalek gemura v'tifra yesha geula shalema. Chidah gives a guarantee that if Klal Yisrael would dedicate themselves on Purim, l'kedusha, l'Torah, l'tzedakah, l'mitzvahs, Miyad ha'geula ba'im. So this is the great revelation of the Chidah, that Purim is more than just a celebration of our lives being saved, because this was not something that all of Klal Yisrael benefited from in the same way. Purim is an appreciation that the greatest, the brightest, most brilliant illumination of Kedusha in the history, through Hashbas Kedusha, through Hashbas of Torah, came on Purim. And it was not only Bayom Mahim, it was also Bazman Hazeh. So if Klal Yisrael ever needed to tap in to such a day, we need it now more than ever. And we should be zoicha to take advantage of this great opportunity, and look forward to seeing everybody Bez Hashem tomorrow, continuing in the beautiful Yarchei Kala. Thank you, Rav Nassim Weldler, for all of the arrangements. And yeah. That's right. The Bnei Yissaschar says that something the Chidah said, that even though the Gemara in Yuma says on Daf Pei Vav that Arba Chiluke Kapara, there's something the Chidah says that Al Yidei Torah, it's mechaper without it. Whatever the Chidah says down here in this world, they paskin like that in the Bezdin Shamala. So, and there was just the yahrzeit of Rabbi Melech of Lezhensk, who says that Hashem brought the Chidah to this world to ward off the Sitra Achra. Through the Svarim of the Chidah, it pushes off the Sitra Achra. So tonight we learned from 7 of the Svarim of the Heilige Chidah. Zechusa Yagin Aleinu. Thank you very much. Gute Nacht. Shkoyach.